This episode is brought to you by Hers. Now, the seasons are about to change. We are going into spring, but don't let the external things be the only things that you prioritize. So like cleaning up your space or organizing. Make sure you're doing some internal spring cleaning with your mental health as well. At forhers.com, you can get access to real medical providers who can prescribe trusted anxiety and depression medication if it's right for you. The process is 100% online, including unlimited check-ins, provider messaging, and support along the way. Plus, to make things even simpler, you can get your first month of treatment for just $25 if prescribed. To get started, go to forhers.com/spring. That's forhers.com/SPRING. What's not good for anyone's mental health is all of the stress that goes into getting the care that you need and getting access to it. That's why Hers makes it super simple. Get started today at forhers.com/spring. That's forhers.com/SPRING. Offer only available if prescribed. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Subscription required. Additional restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. This podcast is sponsored by eHarmony, the dating app that helps people find someone who gets you. I believe that relationships thrive when you're truly able to take the mask off and be yourself. When I met my husband, it was so important for me not to show up as, this entrepreneur, this person who does all of these things, but just me. Because if all of this went away, would you still love me for who I am? And I'm so grateful that I found that and not someone who was just obsessed with what I could produce or what we could produce together. Even before that, when I was single, I would use dating apps to try to find a match. And it was such a frustrating process. But eHarmony does a lot to understand what it's like to be single or in a relationship today. In one of their most recent research studies, they found that the most common frustration of people on dating apps is that other people's profiles are generic and they don't tell them enough about who people really are. So what's the answer? 2/3 of daters agree that having a profile that accurately captures who they are and attracts the kind of people they're looking for is a top priority. When it comes to connection, we want someone who truly gets us, not just certain parts of us. If we're going to make better connections, we'll have to give people a better sense of who we are too. eHarmony helps you create a profile that shows the real you. Their well-rounded personality quiz helps you find someone who will really get you. eHarmony is the dating app that helps you show up as yourself, so the connections you make sees you for you. So join the dating app that helps users find the most authentic relationships. Take eHarmony's compatibility quiz today and get someone who gets you. This episode is brought to you by Clay. Can we talk for a second about how hard it is to maintain relationships as adults? Personal and professional relationships, because we be busy and sometimes we just have a lot going on and it's hard to keep track and really just make sure that we're doing the things to cultivate our relationships in both our personal and professional lives the way that we should. Enter Clay, a web and mobile app designed to help you be more intentional with your relationships, available at clay.earth. So this app is so cool because once you connect your accounts, so LinkedIn, email, calendar, text, everywhere, Clay puts in everybody that you know into digital profiles that compile any information about your contacts from across the web so you can search your network within seconds. For example, I always forget birthdays. And social media sites sometimes help me remember when it's people's birthdays for me to reach out. But now all of that information can be on one spot with Clay. So then you can even take notes on your relationships. You can set reminders to reach out, and you can even be prompted to reconnect if it's been a while. Clay also includes a feed of important updates from people in your life, like when someone is mentioned in the news or moves to a new city, so you can reach out at the right time. For listeners of this podcast, we're offering a 60-day free trial if you visit clay.earth/partners/blessed. Again, that's clay.earth anchor.fm/partners/blessed. You are listening to Blessed and Bossed Up, presented by Anchored Media, an entrepreneurship podcast for Christians all about how to make God the CEO of your business. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, but well-equipped to live and build your destiny His way. Hey guys, welcome back to another bonus episode of the Blessed and Bossed Up podcast. This week, for the bonus episode and the main episode, we are going to answer some questions. So I posted in my Instagram stories. If you're not following me on Instagram, follow me at Tatum Temia, TatumTemia. And I also sent out an email to my email list asking what questions do you guys have for me, because I wanted to spend this week doing mailbag episodes. So for this bonus episodes, because they're usually shorter, I want to answer the most asked question. Everybody is asking about the B word, balance. How do I balance the hats I wear as a child of God, a wife, a mom, an entrepreneur? How do I show up in my roles as a parent, a wife, a business owner, a career person, sister, auntie, all the things? How do I balance? This is everybody's question. I go into this in so much detail in my book, She is Uncompromising. If you haven't gotten the book, you can go to tatumtemia.com/book. But I'm also going to answer the question here on the podcast. Now, I don't believe in balance. Let me just make that clear. The definition of balance means that in order for something to be balanced, you need to distribute the weight evenly. I feel like when I think about balance, I think about someone on a tightrope and just putting one foot in front of the other, trying not to fall. And honestly, when you find yourself juggling many things in life and trying to find balance, you often look like that. And I don't believe in balance for that reason. In order for something to be balanced, the weight has to be distributed evenly on each side. And that's simply not the reality of life at all. The things that you have going on, the hats that you wear, all carry different weight. There are different levels of responsibility. They are different priority levels. So with balance, I just want to throw the whole word away because I just think it's a useless thing to pursue. Instead, I personally believe in total life harmony, to where every part, every aspect of your life works together in a way to which you have peace, you have harmony, you have cohesion. Now, in order for you to do that, that takes intentionality. It takes you really sitting down and understanding what's on your plate and creating a system for your life that allows for that harmony to take place. If you wake up every day and you just go and attack all of the things that's on your mind that you know you have to do, you'll always feel like you're playing catch up, as opposed to really creating a system where you're in control, your priorities are being met, things are running smoothly, and then you'll find yourself being a lot more at ease. So for me personally, when I became a mother, that was huge for me, is figuring out what is this system going to be to where my life is able to operate smoothly. Even now, about to be a mother of two, I'm not anxious at all about having another child, because when I created my system, my success system for my total life harmony, my system was created with the understanding that I want to have multiple children. So I can transition into motherhood again, being a mama of two young children with peace of mind. Now, having a newborn and a toddler is going to be hectic for sure, but it's not going to be hectic because I'm disorganized. It's going to be hectic just because that's the nature of parenthood, and kids are unpredictable. So for any of you guys that are struggling with balance and managing your responsibility or having total life harmony, I would tell you to create a system. Now, practically what that looks like is the first thing that you need to do is evaluate what's on your plate. What are you currently doing? And I talk about this in my book. Take inventory of your time. Spend about a week or so documenting how much time you spend on anything. I don't care if it's scrolling on TikTok. I don't care if it's laying in the bed looking at the ceiling. I don't care what it is. Write it all down. One of the best analogies I learned early on is that time is like money and you have to budget it accordingly. You have 24 hours in a day. So how are you going to spend it? And you want to make sure that you're spending it in a way to where it's fueling your goals. So step one would be to take inventory of your time. After you take inventory of your time, get rid of time wasters. So if you know that you spend an hour as soon as you wake up scrolling on TikTok, then you need to eliminate that and spend that hour then being more productive, or allocate that to something that is more in alignment with where you want your life to go. So after you take inventory of your time and you see what your time wasters are, I would then take a look at your priorities and write down what your priorities are in this season. Now, when you create your system, understand that this is season specific, right? As seasons change, as time change, your system is going to change. So for me, when I got pregnant, my system had to change, especially in my first trimester where I'm exhausted and nauseous all day. I simply don't have it to work as many hours as I usually do because I'm tired and I'm nauseous and queasy all day. So I had to adjust my schedule and my system to accommodate the changes that my body was going through at that time. My second trimester, when the nausea went away and I got some more energy, I was able to operate based on my old system now because things are a lot easier to deal with. Now I'm in my third trimester, getting towards the end. I'm tired. My body hurts, my belly is heavy, and my system has to adjust to that. I can't do as much as I would do in a day previously because it just takes more out of me. So again, seasons will change. When my son is born and I have a newborn and a toddler and we're going through household transitions, my system is going to look a bit differently to be able to accommodate what's the most important in that season, which is the transitions in our home. So again, don't think that this is some rigid thing that you're creating. It has to be flexible in order for it to be effective and accommodate what season your family may be in, what season you may be in personally. So again, based on the season that you're currently in, write down what are your priorities. For me currently, my priority is, of course, my time with God. Like, God is always my number one priority. After that, my priority is making sure that I'm good. I'm mentally well, I'm healthy, I'm happy that I'm going to bring a healthy baby into this world. So my pregnancy is a priority for me right now, and delivery and postpartum and all of that, this transitional period in my life is a high priority for me. Then of course, my household with that is of course a high priority for me. My husband, my son, making sure that our home is happy, it's a place of peace, that they're seen, that they're taken care of, that they're well, that's a priority. And then lastly, my priority right now is my business. And even in business, my priority in business is not growing it to $1 million this year. It's just simply not, because I know the work ethic that's going to take, the dedication and the hours that's going to take. And it's not in my best interest and in my previous priority of my own well-being to be trying to adjust to a new season in my personal life while also striving and grinding to grow this business to a new level. That just would not be smart. So with my business, my priority is just to make sure that we're making money, that we're serving the people we're supposed to serve well, that our expenses are low and my profit margins are high, and that it's operating smoothly. That's it. This podcast is sponsored by eHarmony, the dating app that helps people find someone who gets you. I believe that relationships thrive when you're truly able to take the mask off and be yourself. When I met my husband, it was so important for me not to show up as, this entrepreneur, this person who does all of these things, but just me. Because if all of this went away, would you still love me for who I am? And I'm so grateful that I found that, and not someone who was just obsessed with what I could produce or what we could produce together. Even before that, when I was single, I would use dating apps to try to find a match. And it was such a frustrating process. But eHarmony does a lot to understand what it's like to be single or in a relationship today. In one of their most recent research studies, they found that the most common frustration of people on dating apps is that other people's profiles are generic and they don't tell them enough about who people really are. So what's the answer? 2/3 of daters agree that having a profile that accurately captures who they are and attracts the kind of people they're looking for is a top priority. When it comes to connection, we want someone who truly gets us, not just certain parts of us. If we're going to make better connections, we'll have to give people a better sense of who we are too. eHarmony helps you create a profile that shows the real you. Their well-rounded personality quiz helps you find someone who will really get you. eHarmony is the dating app that helps you show up as yourself, so the connections you make sees you for you. So join the dating app that helps users find the most authentic relationships. Take eHarmony's compatibility quiz today and get someone who gets you. This episode is brought to you by NetSuite. We talk all the time on this podcast about how you should be an effective CEO of your business and make the best long-term business decisions. That's why I'm so excited to talk to you about NetSuite. NetSuite gives you the visibility and control that you need to make better decisions faster. And for the first time in NetSuite's 22 years as the #1 cloud financial system, you can defer payments of a full NetSuite implementation for 6 months. That's no payment and no interest for 6 months. And you can take advantage of this special financing offer today. NetSuite is #1 because they give your business everything that you need in real time, all in one place to reduce manual processes, boost efficiency, build forecasts, and increase productivity across every department. Now, again, in order for you to make the right executive decisions, you need to have all the information. And sometimes it can just be a waste of mental space to have to go through so many different manual processes, different places, and just redundant systems to find the information that you need. So having it all in one place is absolutely necessary for you to make the best decisions. 33,000 companies have already upgraded to NetSuite, giving visibility and control over their financials, inventory, HR, e-commerce, and more. If you've been sizing NetSuite up to make the switch, then you know this deal is unprecedented. No interest, no payments. Take advantage of this special financing offer at netsuite.com/blessed. netsuite.com/blessed to get the visibility and control that you need to weather any storm. netsuite.com/blessed. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. I told you guys how last year, for the better part of the year, I was in therapy and I learned so much about myself. One of the things that kind of shocked me was I've always been very, very good with boundaries, but my therapist helped me to realize how when it came to people I love, my boundaries got a little bent. I had a soft spot, of course, because I love them. And so I wasn't being as strict with those boundaries as I could. And that was just a huge breakthrough moment for me to keep in mind when I am dealing with and, having a relationship with people I love, to still maintain my boundaries. Getting to know yourself, it's a lifelong process, especially because we're always growing and changing. And so therapy is about deepening your self-awareness and understanding, because sometimes we don't know what we want or why we act the way that we do until we talk through things. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/blessed today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/blessed. It's not the season for anything more than that. And so my system is to accommodate and built around these priorities. And this is a big thing as well. When you're building out your system for total life harmony, you need to understand what it's going to cost to accomplish what it is that you're trying to do. The Bible says that what man builds a house without first counting the cost. So you're not doing yourself a disservice if you're like, okay, this year I'm going to become a mom. I'm going to build a 6-figure business. I'm going to do all of these high goal things at the same time. And I'm not saying that those things are not possible, but if you're striving for these huge goals concurrently, there's going to be a consequence to that. Something is going to suffer. And you have to evaluate what that is and if it's worth it. For me, if I was to have this high goal of, let's say, taking my business from multi 6 figures to $1 million this year, that's going to cost a lot of time, a lot of focus that I'm just not willing to give right now, because the expense of that, the cost to that would be less time being present in my home. And during a period like this where we're, expanding our family, where my son is going to be transitioning from being an only child to a sibling, he's going to be transitioning into school. There's also transitions happening for my child too. And I'm not going to miss being present in that and being attentive and hands-on and guiding him through that for business. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm not going to miss my time with God because I got to wake up at the crack of dawn and grind. Absolutely not. It's not worth it. So again, count the cost for whatever it is that you are trying to accomplish, and then line that up with what you say your priorities are. And after you establish those priorities and you've gotten rid of your time wasters, now it's just a matter of budgeting out the time in the day to make sure you're addressing those priorities first. Now, a big part of this too is protecting your priorities. Don't say that your relationship with God is your priority when it's the last thing that you make sure you accomplish. Or it's the thing that keeps getting pushed back and rescheduled and all of that based on what is going on in every other area. That doesn't sound like a priority to me. You can't say that your household is your priority, but every single thing that pops up with business, you're running to it. After hours, you answer your phone any time of day and night. You responding to emails. Y'all at the family dinner table, and you responding to client concerns and all of these different things. So is the family the real priority? And for some of us, I don't think the neglect of our priorities are intentional. But that's why you have to put controls in place to protect them. So for me personally, I'm very stern on I don't work after 4:30. Every day at 4:30, my son comes and finds me to cuddle. It's the cutest thing. Usually I'm home, so I'm upstairs or something. He'll come upstairs, mommy cuddles, and he bangs on the door. I open the door and we cuddle. That's what we do. And that's our time together. Then we come downstairs with daddy and we hang out and we color and draw and do all of these different things. Like, it's our time together as a family. Business is just going to have to wait. Anything that didn't get done before 4:30, it simply has to wait. And for me, if I'm ever in a place where that's impacting my business, that means I need to rework some things in my business. I don't need to work longer hours. I need to check my own productivity. I need to figure out where am I getting it wrong to where my business can't get done within an 8-hour workday. So again, protect those priorities. For me, with my time with God, I had to rework my system, especially as it related to my time with God when I got pregnant, because I was finding that the way I was doing things before wasn't working. So I've always been a morning person, and I can wake up early, get stuff done. I'm productive. I love to be up early before everybody else wakes up. But since I've been pregnant, that has not been my life. Now, I'm not somebody who sleeps late in the day. So even if I don't have an alarm on, I'm going to be up by like 8:00. But when I would have my alarm set and I would wake up at 5, I would wake up at 6 or whatever, it would just be a terrible day. I would feel like I didn't get enough sleep. No matter how early I went to bed, it would just be a terrible day. And I was like, okay, in this season of pregnancy, I don't know what the heck happened that now I'm not able to really get up and be alert and get to it like I am when I'm not pregnant. It's just going to have to change. So now I know what time I naturally wake up, which is around, like I say, I don't sleep later than 8. I usually wake up around 7. So now I let myself wake up naturally. And the first thing that I do when I get up is I go spend my time with God. I go down to my son's playroom. That's where I usually pray at. I read the word, and then my day can start after that. But again, me pulling myself together saying, okay, Tatum, it's been long enough where you just sleeping, oversleeping. So now you getting up, because my house usually around 8:30 is when our nanny comes. So around 8 is when the house starts moving. But for me, I was waking up around that time, around 8. My son is up. All right, now it's time for us to get him ready for the day. It's time to make breakfast, put out his meals for the day, for when our nanny comes, and make sure his playroom is straight so she ain't coming into a mess, all of these different things. So I would find myself waking up and then just being sucked into what I got to do that day and my normal routine versus really protecting that priority of starting my day with God. And so that simple adjustment of, okay, I'm going to get to bed at a reasonable time. I'm going to let myself sleep with no alarm. And then I'm going to get up and I'm going to spend that time. And it works. And so again, you just have to make sure that you're doing what you need to do to protect your priorities. So whether it's hard cutoff times, whether it's you checking in and having that accountability with yourself when you seem to be off, do what you have to do, but protect those priorities, because if you don't put the controls in place, it's just, the system is just simply not going to work. So after you protect them, now you need some type of physical system to help drive this thing. Now, what this looks like is different for each per individual people. So you might be somebody who is a pen and paper person. So planners may be your thing. Utilize your planner to make sure that your day is organized, whatever it is you do for your family or whatever your priorities are, that is organized in that planner. Me personally, I like to use project management systems. Don't give me no planner because I'm going to lose it. So I like to use systems because that way I have access to them from all of my devices and I don't have to find a physical thing. But I use a system called Notion to manage every area of my life. I used it for business. We're actually moving to a different project management system for business now, but I still like Notion a lot for my personal life stuff, and I can connect it to our business project management system. So it works out well for me. But I love it because everything, all of my priorities, everything that I'm doing in my life is organized in one place. And so this is a system that I personally use that keeps my total life harmony, blueprint, success system, whatever it is you want to call it, is what keeps it operating smoothly. So as you can see, the harmony that you want to have in your life, it's not something that's going to happen by happenstance. It's not something that's going to happen just by you spending all day in your prayer closet. It's something that's going to take discipline. It's going to take intentionality, and it's going to take consistency. And if you don't have those things, I would address that head on, because otherwise you'll never get that balance, that harmony that you're looking for. And I go into this in way more detail. I even give you a full blueprint in my book. So if you do want to take advantage of that, you can go to tatumtamia.com/book to get the book. I'll put the link in the show notes. But again, take the notes from this episode though, because I gave you a lot. So we'll stop the questions there. I wanted to answer that one because it was the most common as the bonus episode. And then for the main episode this week, I'll answer some more. Thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you leave a review. Make sure that you share this episode with a friend who needs to hear it. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. This podcast is sponsored by eHarmony, the dating app that helps people find someone who gets you. I believe that relationships thrive when you're truly able to take the mask off and be yourself. When I met my husband, it was so important for me not to show up as, this entrepreneur, this person who does all of these things, but just me. Because if all of this went away, would you still love me for who I am? And I'm so grateful that I found that, and not someone who was just obsessed with what I could produce or what we could produce together. Even before that, when I was single, I would use dating apps to try to find a match. And it was such a frustrating process. But eHarmony does a lot to understand what it's like to be single or in a relationship today. In one of their most recent research studies, they found that the most common frustration of people on dating apps is that other people's profiles are generic and they don't tell them enough about who people really are. So what's the answer? 2/3 of daters agree that having a profile that accurately captures who they are and attracts the kind of people they're looking for is a top priority. When it comes to connection, we want someone who truly gets us, not just certain parts of us. If we're going to make better connections, we'll have to give people a better sense of who we are too. eHarmony helps you create a profile that shows the real you. Their well-rounded personality quiz helps you find someone who will really get you. eHarmony is the dating app that helps you show up as yourself, so the connections you make sees you for you. So join the dating app that helps users find the most authentic relationships. Take eHarmony's compatibility quiz today and get someone who gets you. This podcast is sponsored by eHarmony, the dating app that helps people find someone who gets you. I believe that relationships thrive when you're truly able to take the mask off and be yourself. When I met my husband, it was so important for me not to show up as, this entrepreneur, this person who does all of these things, but just me. Because if all of this went away, would you still love me for who I am? And I'm so grateful that I found that and not someone who was just obsessed with what I could produce or what we could produce together. Even before that, when I was single, I would use dating apps to try to find a match. And it was such a frustrating process. But eHarmony does a lot to understand what it's like to be single or in a relationship today. In one of their most recent research studies, they found that the most common frustration of people on dating apps is that other people's profiles are generic and they don't tell them enough about who people really are. So what's the answer? 2/3 of daters agree that having a profile that accurately captures who they are and attracts the kind of people they're looking for is a top priority. When it comes to connection, we want someone who truly gets us, not just certain parts of us. If we're going to make better connections, we'll have to give people a better sense of who we are too. eHarmony helps you create a profile that shows the real you. Their well-rounded personality quiz helps you find someone who will really get you. eHarmony is the dating app that helps you show up as yourself, so the connections you make sees you for you. So join the dating app that helps users find the most authentic relationships. Take eHarmony's compatibility quiz today and get someone who gets you.